Hi everyone, welcome to Go Indie Now. Today's panel is going to be talking about motivation. What motivates us to keep writing, inspiration, and you'll learn a little bit more about my fabulous panel. Today I have Karina, who I like to change her name, so I'm going to let her introduce herself right now and pronounce it properly.
Hi everyone, I'm Karina Cantor. Some people call me Karina Katniss. Mwah. I'm an author of 8 books. I am also a VA, a narrator. I'm a book trailer designer, and I'm also the promotion and marketing manager for TSK Publication. So lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Marmy.
You're welcome. And Joe Compton, let's get Mr. Go Indie Now out of the way so he can get this started and introduce himself. He's been behind the camera a little bit too much. Let's not put him like on the spotlight of being a panelist.
Hi everybody, I'm Joe Compton. I am the author of Amongst the Killing and obviously the owner of this wonderful adventure called Go Indie Now, and there you go. I'm happy to be here.
And if we can have Christy introduce herself, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Christy Stratus, and I'm the author of Anatomy of a Darkened Heart. Right here. This is a dark psychological historical fiction. My next book, Lock and Key, is going to come out in the fall, and I'm also the owner of Proof Positive, which is an editing company, and I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Marnie.
You're welcome. And let's see who else we should pick on. How about we pick on Ellie? Why don't you tell us about yourself, Ellie?
Hey Marnie, my name is Ellie Fitzpatrick, or you can call me Lindsay. I'm the author of The Running Game, and I'm an editor, and this is my first panel, so I'm very nervous and drinking lots of gin. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. I know you're a fantastic editor. And let's see, Cindy, or SL, or CL. You can introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm CL Schneider, or you can call me Cindy, or Cynthia, or C, or whatever you feel like. I'm the author of the Crown of Stones trilogy. I write epic and urban fantasy for adults. I'm currently working on a new urban fantasy series, which hopefully will be out sometime after the first of the year. And thank you, Marnie. I would only be doing this for you. This is my first, so be gentle.
Well, you'll be very gentle. And Jason, another one that I had to pull kicking and screaming, and who's been lovely enough to join us at a very painful hour. So, Jason.
It's a pleasure, Marnie. My name is Jason Greensides, author of The Distant Sound of Violence, an epic contemporary novel about bad decisions and love gone wrong. Great to be here. I write literary, commercial literary and contemporary fiction, so great to be here.
And JM. You might introduce
Hi.
him.
Hi, I'm JM Norfolk. My real name is Julie. I have 10 different books out there. I write in an array of genres, but mostly in young adult.
I probably should introduce myself. I'm Marnie Kate, young adult author of Remember and Extingency, Protectors of the Elemental Magic. I'm just finishing up my 3rd book, and I've dabbled a little bit into romance now, so we're going to see a little bit different side from me. So once again, thank you guys, everyone, for coming. I know I've been torturing you for a month, motivating you to say I'm not going to be too cruel with my questions. But all of you at some point have inspired me, just either by your comments, just watching you guys go. Like, you're all really inspirational for me. And so one of my things is I'm wondering, what motivates you as writers to write? Because we're really in a hard business where it's very saturated, and it seems like there's so many of us that you're like, they are so good. Why are they not up in the, the $1 million list? Their books are just as good. So I always wonder, what motivates you to keep writing? So if anyone would like to give their opinion on that, like Jason, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. It's just what you do, I think, or what I do, or what we all do to a certain extent. So, I mean, for me, just communication with the reader, it's just a way of communicating because quite often in real life, I'm like very kind of just focused on my, this tunnel vision, but there's stuff going on there, and I want to communicate that, and this is just my perfect way of doing it. So really, and sort of the themes that I really just that I need to express is, kind of dealing with life and relationships and trying to fit into society and existence and all that. So it's just something I have to do.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I definitely get into a pretty bad mood if I don't write often enough, which is at least once a week. So like going off what you're saying, I definitely feel that if I wait too long between times, I start to get like, I feel kind of like, what am I doing with my life? Even though I have like a full-time job and other things to do, I still feel like, I'm not that happy, or I get really moody and stuff like that. And so I sort of have to write, but at the same time, I love it. And it is like the best way to express myself for sure. So I totally agree with you, Jason.
Yeah,
I think it's,
Oh, sorry, Jason.
I'm sorry. I think it's very therapeutic, but I think it also falls into the realm of creative expression. A lot of people find different things that they do for outlets, and some people are painters. Well, I look at writing as though it's painting with words, and it does make me feel happy in a world that's so chaotic and filled with so many things that I feel like I don't have control over. It's a nice way to express myself and to kind of take control again of my mind and my emotions and how I want to see things.
I agree.
I think as well, it's not just writing. You don't need to be motivated to write. You need to be motivated to publish. I think it's all well and good. We as writers, we just write, like what Christy said. We just write. It's part of us. But to publish, that's where the motivation comes from. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't really feel like motivation is something I struggle with. I think it's because I've wanted this for so long. Since I was 16, I wanted to be a published author. I wanted a career in writing, and I put it on the back burner for life, for marriage, career, kids. And I made that choice. I felt at the time that if I didn't have hours to devote to a writing career, why bother? It was a stupid thing, but that's what I thought. And so this was my dream. And so literally it's my dream come true. So for me, it's not work. It's not, all the motivation, it's right here. It's my whole life. It's been in here. And everything I wrote went in a box in my closet, and it was kind of suppressed a little bit, not entirely, but it didn't get to come out like it can now. So I've got motivation in spades. I don't even know. You have to stop me. Seriously, I could be a hermit, Marnie, as you know, with our treehouse conversations.
Sure.
So.
Karina?
I'm glad to know I'm not the only one with the box hidden in the closet.
It is stuffed full. Someday it's coming out.
For me, it was the only thing I was ever good at. So I was writing very, very young, and people were engaged by it, and I found that fascinating, and I just kept going. And I agree that the motivation doesn't come from the writing itself. The motivation comes from publishing and moving forward and putting it out there and overcoming, obstacles and fear and all the things that we deal with when we're putting ourselves out there. And I think that you have to self-motivate. It starts with you, inside of you, and you have to self-motivate yourself to keep going. And if you don't, then nobody's going to pick you up. If they don't know you, then nobody's ever going to pick you up to tell you, hey, you got to keep going. So you got to start with yourself and just push yourself. And if you do that, then the motivation is to keep going from there.
So what do you find that you do when, say you get a bad review or you get a critique for someone? Like for me, I've had, when I first published, I hate the Oxford comma. I hate it. I know, I'm sorry. I hate it. It makes me mad. And so that actually, a couple of people are like, well, I can't read it because it doesn't have that. And this is, I said to them, well, my book isn't your kind of book then. If a comma is bothering you, that means my book's not engaging you. So maybe you shouldn't read that book. Because, so, but when something like that happens, it kind of like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I am a horrible author. Maybe I stink at this, and maybe I should just quit writing. So how, if you ever get that feeling, how do you get out of that rut? And I know when we publish, it's great that first couple months when it's, oh, my book, and then all of a sudden there's that trickle like, yay, my book, it's, now what? And you have to get on your social media, and you got to market, and you got to reach out. How do you stay motivated and inspired during that? I know, like you're saying, internal motivation. I love my books. I will talk all day about my characters if you let me. But every once in a while, I'm like, I need to pack it in, stop writing, not waste my time. But then, what motivates you to get out of that?
Honestly, something that surprised me but also helped me in a lot of ways. Two of my very favorite authors of all time are Kathleen O'Neill Gear and her husband W. Michael Gear, and they have done over 52 novels with, you know, big publishing houses. They're very famous, and I've been honored enough to be able to call myself their friend. And I was talking with Mike one day, and he said, you know, the hardest part of writing is the promotion part. He's like getting on social media and, you know, having to follow all of the different outlets to contact people. And I said, but you have a big publishing house there with Tor. You know, I'm like, how? And he said, even when you're with a big publishing house, you have to make yourself accessible. You have to be available to your readers, and you have to put yourself out there. And so for me, that was actually an eye-opener, because I didn't expect anyone to tell me that. You know what I mean? So even as an indie person, I figured, oh, you know, 90% of the promotion is on me. Well, honestly, it's on any writer.
No one else out here ever feels like hanging up their typewriter and...
Oh yeah, many times. I've been at this for 25 years about. I've given up quite a few times and started again. I even made a big announcement on my to all my readers, all my fans, that this was it. This was going to be it. I'll keep my page open, but I'm not writing anymore. But then you get motivated and you have to do it again. I mean, when you're a writer, it's like an itch, you know. You can have a break. Not saying you've got writer's block, but you have a break, and then you suddenly get that itch again, and you have to pick up that pen again, and then you can't sleep because everything's going around in your head. You've got to get that all out. I mean, all of that is motivation. And for me, I mean, it could be a film, it could be a book, it could be something I've seen on the news. Anything could motivate me into wanting to write a story. When you were saying, Julie, about the big five, looking for agents, people are looking for publishers still. It's not all indie. People do want to go to the big five. But as Julie was saying, even if you get into the big five, or even if your manuscript gets through the door, unless you come with a big international fan base, they don't want to know. Doesn't matter how good your book is, unless you have that social media connection, you can't get any further. So yeah, I mean, that motivates you. You've got to find your fans, find your readership, find your market, and to do that, you've got to be motivated to do that, because if you're not willing to go that extra mile, then your book is going to be on Amazon, and after 6, 7 months, you may have sold maybe 1 copy. So you do have to put the work in, and you have to be motivated to put the work in.
When you were talking about the bad reviews, how do you go on? When I got my first one, I cried. I stuffed myself full of ice cream. I admit it. But then I read a quote, and I honestly don't remember who said it. But if you don't make, let's try and remember what it was. If you don't make something no one hates, no one will love it. And I have never forgotten that, and it made a big impact on me. And every time I see something that is less than stellar, I try to go back to that, and it reminds me that, you know, it's not for everyone. And you're right, Marnie, what you said. If you're staring at commas, you know, you're not lost in the book. You're not. This isn't the character for you to get lost in. This isn't the story for you. And I think that's important to remember when you're reading those reviews, that not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody's going to love it. And that quote helps me a lot. I always go back to that.
I think it's also helpful when you get like a low review. I think it's also helpful. Sometimes you look at it and you wonder if the person is right. But one of the things that I do is look at it really critically, like look at that review and really pick it apart the way they're picking apart your book, you know, and I say, okay, well, where would that be coming from? And where would that, because I got one review that said, oh, this wasn't as dark as the book promised. And that was one out of like 15 reviews that said, this is really, really dark, you know? So you have to put it in perspective. For some people, like if you're looking to read like something that has a lot of, I don't know, something really dark like torture, then no, this isn't the book for you, you know? But they're not going to know sometimes until they read it. So in that way, you know, once you sort of weigh it with why they might say that, and also, sometimes if you look at their other reviews, you'll see why. Like some people think a 3-star review is really high, and most of their reviews are 1 star. So, like, you know, if you look at their reviews and you find that so many of them are lower than yours, it's just a different way than they rate it.
I agree with Christy. You always go and look at what the other reviewer is saying and what he's saying about other books. And sometimes they slate other books, but I also find as well, if you look at your favourite authors, they all have bad reviews. And they will have bad reviews for the rest of their careers, just like you will. So you just have to bear it and grin and bear it as well. One great review is cancelled out by one bad review inside, but I don't think it is with the reader and with the people who are reading the reviews. So you've just got to look at it in perspective.
Talking about reviews, I was going to post this on one of the indie groups that I'm in. My daughter was reading a book by a best-selling author with the Big Five. She had, I think it was called The Princess Diaries. I don't know if any of you have heard that. The Princess Diaries, and it was a bestseller, and I think they did a movie from it. And she had this next series about a girl who was a medium or whatever, and it went on for about 7 books. My daughter read the first one. She was like, oh, Mum, you've got to get me the second and third. I need to read the whole series. And I'm like, okay, I'll just go on Amazon and have a look. Now, this is a best-selling author. This isn't an indie author. She's with one of the top 5. Her first book of this new series had 5 reviews, and that was in the last year, a year of it being published. So when people like us indies and we say, oh, you know, I've only got 12 reviews, oh, I've only got 3 reviews, this is fantastic. And people don't realise how amazing that is, because someone who's a best-selling author at Big Five, I went through all her books in that series, and the most she had was 12 reviews of one of the books. I mean, that says that we're doing the right thing, that even though we've only got 12 reviews, we are ahead of someone who's in the Big Five. That's something to be proud about, and that's something that should motivate all of us.
It looks like we do have a question from our audience. How do you guys keep yourself on task to meet deadlines?
Honestly, for me, it's not an issue of motivating myself. It's, you know, kind of like what the panel's been saying. The voices in your head kind of tell you the story, and you just go with it. So usually I feel the story and I see it in my head like a movie, and so I write it and it just comes out. So it does it itself for me.
On being self-published, a lot of the deadlines are self-inflicted. You know, myself, I had a deadline of yesterday to finish the draft I was working on, and I'm within like 2 paragraphs of the end. And you know, kids are home, things are going on. I just can't, you know, and it's killing me. But you know, it's they're self-imposed. So you know, you do what you can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just absolutely can't meet them. But writing time is very precious, and you know, protect it. Was it J.K. Rowling who said that, I think, but it's true. It's very true. When you get it, you got to hold on to that and get it done, because you can't. It builds up inside. It's like a pressure cooker. It just, if you go too long, she was right. If you go to Christy, I think it was, that said that. If you go too long without it, you get grumpy, you get cranky. No one wants to be around me when I'm like that. So, got to get it done.
I also feel like for indie authors, and when you're self-publishing especially, you have to be a little bit gentler on yourself, because things can change so much and it isn't your only job. And one of the things that happened to me was when I was writing the book that's going to be published in the fall, Lock and Key, I started with a totally different concept. I was aiming for 10,000 words. And I had a whole other plan, and it expanded on itself and changed so much that, like, now looking at the fall, I had wanted to publish it in like April. Obviously that didn't happen, but it's okay to do that. And the important thing is that the book is happening. You're consistently writing it, and you are going to meet a deadline. It doesn't have to be like just set a goal or something, but be forgiving with yourself, because you really can't always help it. And if you're too harsh on yourself, you could actually like stop yourself from writing. It could demotivate you. So that's one thing I would definitely say. It's different if you're writing like a short story or a poem for a deadline. Those are shorter, and you know, if you work on it relatively consistently, that's different. But for a book, definitely be forgiving and let it be what it's going to be, so that you come out with, it's much more worth it to come out with something excellent than something rushed.
Christy, something you said kind of spurred a question in me, and Marnie was gracious enough to let me ask. When you go and, like, as all writers do, you grow and you learn and you expand, and you hopefully get better, and your voice matures. And I know one thing that I struggle with, and a friend of mine who's also quite an accomplished indie author in the romance genre, she toils over it as well, is that as we grow, we'll look back at some of our earlier books, and they drive us crazy, because it's like, this could be so much better, you know, I'm telling instead of showing, and oh my gosh. So like I tend to go back and like fix them. How does everyone on the panel, how do you deal with that? Do you go back to earlier manuscripts and try to make them better? Do you
I've just done that, Julie. I've gone through all of my Outlaw series, which is 4 books, which were, for me, they were fine and everyone enjoyed them and I got really good reviews. But as you say, you mature and you get better and you're always learning. You'll never stop learning. And so I look at them and I think, well, you know, that ending wasn't so good. I want to try and make that character better. And so I did. I went through and I had them re-edited and I worked on them. And then I had the interior, had some little illustrations in the interior. And I just give it a real good polish. And I feel really good about that. And now they're back out there and I'm pushing them. And, you know, anyone who's read the old one, they get a free upgrade for the new one. And it's working. I think as an indie author, as a author that's still learning, even after 25 years, you do need to do that. Don't just work on something new and think, oh, this is really good. You know, oh, that didn't work. I'll forget about that. Go back and polish up your old manuscripts, definitely.
Okay, so then inspiration. So we've covered like what has motivated us. Someone mentioned earlier music and maybe songs that motivate them. Do you ever find that you'll be watching a movie and it will inspire you to go and have a writing session that turns into your next book?
I'm always inspired at the time of watching a movie and at the time of listening to music. That inspires me at the time, but as soon as I switch it off, like that just goes straight away. I mean, you just have these fantasies as you're actually watching the movie and listening to music. You're just fantasizing in your brain. But yeah. But
No, Jason, you have to have a pen and paper with you every time you watch your movie and listen to that song and start writing down these notes.
Yeah, if they were that important enough, I would. Otherwise, I'm a daydreamer, whatever's happening. So, you know.
A well choreographed fight scene drives me crazy. All I want to do is go right. I will rewind it and watch it over and over again. Wanted with James McAvoy. It's embarrassing how many times I've watched this one scene at the end. It makes me crazy. I don't know, something about it, the energy and the perfection of the way. This makes me nuts. That's all I want to do is go right as soon as I watch one. And nature, actually, the beach, a thunderstorm. I find all of that very inspiring. It just makes me want to go and lock myself away.
I find things like this inspiring to me. When we're speaking creatively and talking shop and engaging one another, that's what drives me. You know, watching a movie, the creative element of it, or reading a book, or even listening to music, the creative, juices flow through me because I'm looking at it as a creative and not as just a fan of it, or something that is in the background to me. I'm really absorbing it, and when I do that, then creatively that helps me engage what I'm trying to do. It doesn't necessarily influence what I'm doing, but it allows me to turn that part of my brain on and then go forward from there. And usually that's what music does. I most of the time I have to have other silence when I write, and I know I'm kind of in the minority in that respect, but to get going, that's how I start, is to find something creative. I have probably 20 go-to YouTube videos I watch of scenes from some of the best movies or some of the movies I think are the best. Like I watched the prologue from Henry V, like every day almost. And Alec Baldwin's speech, because when I was trying to be an actor, that's the monologue I learned to audition with. So the speech from Glenn Ross that Alec Baldwin does, those are the things that I watch on a daily basis that motivate me. So because it just gets me going, it gets me creatively flowing, and then from there it's up to me to keep that going. But I don't, it doesn't influence me at all.
Sorry, I was being attacked by an animal. I had a question for y'all that the dog just knocked out of my brain. We seem to be a big community of people that support each other. When I first published my book, I met Cindy, who brought me into her world, and was very rah-rah, go indie, you can do it, and very motivational. And I noticed that among the indie community, that people seem not jealous or competitive. They seem very supportive of each other. And I know many of us have been in cover wars against each other, where our covers are up to be voted on, and we still cheer each other on and try to be very kind and supportive. Do you feel like that? Like, what makes you want to help someone else so much? I mean, it's your competition. What inspires you to help out your neighbor, help out another person, get their book out there? When sometimes doing that, their book will completely bypass yours, and they'll get their #1 bestseller. And for me, recently, I had my most favorite. I know y'all are here, and I'm sorry, but James Quinn has been a very driving force on me to go with Creativia, my publisher, and to actually keep writing. He's been kind of like a little support system. And when he hit #1 recently, I felt kind of like, that's not fair. But then you have to kind of check yourself. But I still kept supporting him like crazy. So what do you think makes our community like that, where we just want to keep lifting each other up when we may be failing a little bit or not achieving as high as we'd hoped?
Can I take this one? for me, we've all been there. We know what it was like to start from the bottom. And so, of course, we want to help someone out. We want to guide them. We know our mistakes. We want to make sure they don't make the same mistakes. And so we'll help them that way. With my author services, one of my clients has gone on to do similar things that what I do. Was I upset about that? No, I was so proud. You know, I was the one that taught her how to do that, and now she's doing it for herself. And now she's even expanded, and she's blogging, and she's just gone on, and I'm just so proud of that, and I'm happy I could help her.
I think the thing you have to remember is we're not competing with each other. You don't finish a book and go, oh, I'm never going to read anything like it in that genre again. You want to read more like it. On Amazon, there's a search facility where you can look and see authors like you. I know my book's always alongside D.M. Kane, who's an author we all know, and it's fantastic when you see, oh, somebody's reading my book and they're reading her book. Same with you, Marnie. You know, the same publishers. We all work together. There isn't a competitive element that certain people would have you believe that there is. I know the Amazon ADP community, when I first started self-publishing, was a horrible place. It was full of nasty authors, all being really mean to each other. And then I moved out of that and went into Facebook and met the authors, and which is like a community where we all work together. I think we're all members, aren't we? And we've done so much in the past year, just helping each other, and it's been fantastic. And I've met some of my favourite authors. I've read some of the best books I've ever read. And I'm looking at your panel now, and I'm seeing people who have really inspired me and who I can't wait to read the next instalment. So it's a fantastic community, and that's the best thing about being an author for me.
I definitely agree with Ellie on that one. For me, I think that also kind of leads into the getting motivated and what inspires you. Sharing a story idea with some of my friends, that helps get the juices flowing for all of us, whether they're writing the story or I am, or it gets you thinking and gets you inspired. But for me, I've always said the greatest part of publishing is the people that I've met and the doors that it's opened to the friends that I've acquired through publishing that I never would have known. To me personally, it's very important to help other authors because, like I think I don't know if Karina said it or if Ellie said it, but we're not in competition with one another. I mean, in all of our lives, we can only read like such a small percentage of books. Even if you read like 5 books a day for the rest of your life, you're never going to read all the books that are out there. But it's about enjoying the process and enjoying each other and sharing that. And so for me, that's the most important part of everything. And I've learned so much after becoming a published author than what I even knew before of how readers impact authors. And there's a lot of things to learn about the industry that I didn't know until I published, and then it was other authors that taught it to me.
Before I published, I had no idea how welcoming the community would be. I really felt like I was going to be this little bitty, nothing little fish in this sea of sharks. And it was amazing how friendly and helpful everyone was. And there was so much I didn't know that, I learned on the fly that I definitely love to try and, pass that on to anyone who comes to me for anything, because I wish someone had been there for me when I had to learn all these things myself and I had no idea what I was doing. So I want to obviously try to help anyone who was in the position I was to, pass everything along. And I think we all kind of are in the same boat as far as that goes. We want to see, we all want to be there. We all want the same things. So if I can't get it, I'm thrilled to see if you can. It just, it's not at all like I thought it would be, and it's been a pleasant surprise, and it's definitely changed me as a person. Social media was not my thing. I was like, oh my God, I have to go on Twitter. I have to do all this. And now I live on Twitter. And I think so much of it is because of how welcoming and how wonderful all the other authors and the indie community has been. It definitely helped me grow as a person.
That being said, all that being said, I really, and I'm going to butcher this name, I'm sorry, but I really wanted my book to one day kick the crap out of Stephen King. Is that how you say it? I want to beat his ass. Just kidding. Like Marnie, actually, it's kind of funny that Marnie mentioned that Cindy got her started on this. Cindy was the inspiration for me as well. She's the one who introduced me to the authors and got me going on Goodreads and everything like that. So I'm super glad to see her here today. But
Marnie, almost for you, Joe. I was close, but Marnie pushed me over the edge.
I don't care who did it, Cindy. It's all about you being here now. That's all that matters.
Well, I'm glad.
But and I told you one day you would be. So.
I know you did.
But you know, for me, it's an awesome thing to see everybody flourish. I mean, it just means so much that I know all of you and how talented you are, and if I can shine a little bit of light to somebody who doesn't know you, to me that's a victory unto itself, and that's the aim that I always go for, because to me it doesn't, talking about yourself gets old after a while too. So, and we all have to do that. We have to do that constantly, and we have to do that a lot. So being able to talk about other people and converse with other people and bring other people into this world and let them shine for a while kind of helps you out, and it just feels good to do it. So,
yeah, I know what you mean there, Joe. There is since joining this whole world, there is absolutely nothing more pleasurable than writing a review for you guys or just, anyone related. Like, that is literally the best thing. That's like better than anything else I've done. Just doing a review for someone, it's just amazing. And I love to like put it on there and then just not even tell them, and then a few days later they come back and that is amazing.
I think that's the thing that people forget, is that we are still readers. You know what I mean? I mean, we are each other's audience as much as we are each other's colleagues. And I think if all I had to do was talk about myself, like Joe said, it would get really stale and old, and I don't think I would grow. But by sharing with all of you, I mean, I feel like I'm a better person. I see the world with more, with a wider range and a bigger spectrum. I'm on widescreen instead of, fitting into a little box. But Stephen King, I think that's how you say it, right, Joe?
I think so.
He said something to the effect, I'll paraphrase because I'm horrible with quotes, but he said something to the effect that everybody can be a writer, but you're an author when you write something down, you give it to somebody, they give you money for it, and you can pay something with that money. You know what I mean? And I was like, woohoo, Stephen King thinks I'm an author. For me, that was a very, woo moment. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because,
That's
well,
awesome.
Our good friend Mike.
How dare you make him look like a hero, though?
Well, when Michael Elliott came on Facebook that time, our great horror writer friend, and he said, "I've just sold enough to buy me a packet of crisps." Like, yeah, that's like amazing, yeah. And it's like, I totally agree.
Well, that was something. A lot of times, I'll get people when I say, "Oh, I'm a writer. I published a couple books," and they'll want to ask about, "Oh, well, how much money have you made?" Or I'll have people that'll check in and say, "How much have you made?" And I would think, well, I don't know. You'll have to ask my publisher because I don't keep track of that, because it would probably make me kind of sad if I was only motivated by money. But how do you tell people that, you know, what inspires me is not the money? Because if I was doing this for the money, it
What
would.
you do is, if someone ever asks you that, what you do is you just ask them how much their mortgage payments are, how much their car insurance is. That's what you do.
Exactly. I was gonna say it's none of your business.
Yeah, do you walk up and ask people on the street that? I mean,
You get like, oh, you signed a book deal, you're getting mad cash. But that's not the reality of our world. So it's not money that inspires us. I can promise that. Maybe
Not
my
only,
husband,
not only is that not the not only is that not the reality, that's not the reality for a lot of big name authors.
exactly.
You know, I mean, making lots of money at what we do is almost like, you know, the way our economy is right now, where the top 1% is so much smaller than the top, you know, the bottom 99%. It's the same thing with authors. There's a 1% that make enough, that are comfortably rich or well off, and the rest of us either make enough to make a living, or make enough to be satisfied, to get our money back if we're self-publishing, or even to the point where we're just getting satisfaction that we're actually being authors and selling, you know. So,
Or buying a packet of crisps.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My husband always tells me, he says, you know, he tells me all the time that he's really proud of me, and he says, even if you've never sold another book a day in your life, he's like, I'm proud of you.
Aww.
You know, you've accomplished something. And to me, that means more than money. I feel accomplished because I completed something that was so important to me. But then to have him recognize that's what it's about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was just the sheer accomplishment of what, I mean, for me it was such a grueling thing to finally be published, that, you know, I have a different kind of story, but, you know, it's for a lot of us, you know, just putting ourselves out there was a meaningful ethereal experience. It was an experience that we needed in our lives and had to have. And I think, you know, what if we make money at it, then good for us, but I think a lot of us are happy doing what we do, right? I mean, that's the whole idea of it.
Absolutely. Like I said, something at night. I go to bed at night. I go to bed with about 20 other people because I have 20 of my characters.
wait, you sleep?
But maybe they're from my new book that I made my magical book. It's interesting that
Manny, we can't hear you, honey.
oh, I don't know if I make myself louder. Can you hear me? No. No.
Barely.
All I heard was she goes to bed with 10 other people.
That's all I heard.
Go on.
That's what I heard too.
You know, something that I keep thinking as we're all talking about this is the idea of making money doing something we love. And, you know, I don't remember where I had heard it, but when I was really young, I remember somebody, I think it was in a movie or something, I don't know, they said something about, we try so hard to make money doing the things we're passionate about that eventually we twist it and turn it and contort it and make it something ugly, something that wasn't originally meant to be, just so that we can try to make a profit. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the thing that other people don't realize too, is that you're doing this because it's your passion. You know what I mean? We all have other jobs. We all have a life outside of this. But this is our passion. You know, some people play football, some people bike ride, some people go jogging. We write.
Yeah, I think we all dream to be or at least most of us would dream to be authors full-time, you know, and the full-time job is really just more about supporting our writing, you know, and that's the way it has to be, and there's really nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of bigger names out there that have done the same kind of thing, even with top publishers. You know, if that publisher isn't interested in their ideas for a while, they need a full-time job. You know, and I definitely think it's about loving it, and I always say, you know, don't write a book just to fit into a genre that's popular right now or just to throw something out there, because people see that when they read it. Like, they get that, and it just doesn't come out the same way as if you're really passionate about what you're writing. So just wait it out, even if you have no ideas. It's more worth it to wait. Like I keep saying, you know, it's better to have a great book than have something that really you're not even proud of, you know, to put out there. I mean, we all do it because we love it. So that's the most important thing when you're writing anything, I think.
What do you do when somebody comes to you and says, I can't do this, I can't make it, I'm not making any money, I'm not doing this? I mean, we've seen it so many times in our group, how many people have quit or just thrown in the towel, or, you know, attempted to throw in the towel, or said, you know what, I can't, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to keep going if I can't make a living at this.
I think most of the people that I've talked to who are struggling with it their reasoning isn't because they can't make a living at it as much as they've been hurt by a review or by, you know, a passing comment, or they're just frustrated because they feel so overwhelmed constantly doing a social media thing. And it just goes back into being passionate. If you're not passionate, nobody else will be. And it has to come from inside. It can't be something outside that keeps you going.
You have to have a thick skin, and you have to take criticism, and you have to just be okay with that for the most part. And yeah, another thing that sometimes happens that I don't think people always realize that has happened to me before is if you're in the middle of writing something and it's taking you way longer than you thought it was going to take, and that makes you stop, sometimes you need to stop and do a shorter piece and just finish something, you know? And like that happened to me recently, and that's why I mention it. I hope that that can help somebody, because I didn't know why I was losing my interest in this book I was writing. And I stopped to write a short story for something else, finished it, and said, oh, I can't wait to get right back to my book now, you know? It was just that feeling of accomplishment. So like sometimes you have to take a roundabout way to get that back. But there are definitely ways out there. You just have to sort of experiment and have a thick skin for sure.
There's too many authors that are in it to make money, and they think because after a year and publishing 6-7 books that they haven't made any money yet, that they're not going to do it anymore. You've got to work at it. People don't realise that if that's the case, and they turn around and they're saying, right, that's it, I haven't done any sales, I've been doing this for so long, I'm ready to give up. What do I do now? Well, what you do now is you start from scratch. You check your Amazon page, you check your blurbs, you check your website, you start from scratch and you see what can be improved. You listen to people who are in the know and you learn from it and you ask questions. And then if you've tried all those and it still hasn't worked, maybe you can't write.
I think people think as well that they will write an amazing book and it'll just go viral and everyone will love it. And it doesn't work like that. I just wonder how many amazing books are actually out there undiscovered because people don't put themselves out there and they don't go and explore social media and promote themselves properly. But it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that. And I think you have to have the drive to go the extra mile to publish it rather than just sit and write. And you know, I know a lot of people who write for the pleasure of writing and will have no intention of publishing ever. Does it make them any less talented than the people who are writing? Well, no, it doesn't, but it changes the dynamic in which they're writing. So it swings and roundabouts. If you want to go for it, then you go for it, and if you don't, you're still a writer, just hobby writer, and there's nothing wrong with being a hobby writer.
Mm-hmm. I think, too, that's part of being together in this, you know what I mean? Because like Marnie and I, a good friend of ours, Simone, who's with Creativia with us, who's our publisher, she absolutely does not like the social media scene. She gets very uncomfortable putting herself out there. But she's a very good selling. She's a bestseller in romance. And I think a lot of that, though, is not just her being a good writer, but it's us all supporting each other. I mean, those of us who are more active on social media, we help to try to draw people to the authors that inspire us and the books that we love. You know, again, it goes back to being a reader first and foremost, you know.
It looks like we have a question from our audience. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Wow, maybe I fixed it. The YouTube question from Mark. How did you all feel the first time you held that first proof in your hand? Can you all answer? Want to start with Ellie's on the screen, so if you want to tell us how you felt the first time?
Ooh, the first time I held the first draft that I ever printed out properly to set out to publish was about 180k fantasy book, and it's at my nan's house at the moment because she's the most safe person I know to look after it, and it was amazing. But when and I'm going to do it, held that for the first time, that was something really special, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to show this to people, to hand it out. That's when it changed for me from being just somebody who wanted to write to being somebody who wanted to be an author.
Yeah, if you want to see my YouTube video of my unboxing, then you'll see my reaction. It's pretty goofy and really just. I look at that now and I just think, oh. But people do relate to it because it is a moment, you know. So yeah.
I love that video.
Yeah, it is just. It's so goofy though. It's unbelievable. Now I just want to do now I want to compensate and do overly pissed off, angry videos just to sort of balance it out. But yeah.
Oh, I definitely cried the first time when I got this in the mail. The first time, I definitely cried. I cried the second one. I cried. It's such a accomplishment, such a feeling. I waited since I was 16 to. That was all I ever wanted, was to hold my book in my hands, and then suddenly it was here in the mail, and it was. I remember my hands were shaking. It was crazy. I'll never forget that moment.
My in-laws actually got the first copy before I did. They ordered like the moment that it went live, and I had just ordered my copies like a day before, and CreateSpace, I guess, thought it would be better to ship theirs first. So they got the copy, and I saw it for the first time on their kitchen counter. So it was kind of interesting, and they didn't know that, but that's. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, there it is. There's the journey. There's the end of the journey that this crazy roller coaster that I've been on for so many years with this. So it was almost like a deep breath that just cleansed everything that I had been through for the last 16 years. So it was nice.
And unless you're an author, you can't describe what that moment means. First time I held my proof, and I have a different cover now. This is my first book. I was actually in hospital ill, and my husband bought it from the house and thought it would cheer me up. So there's this little, he comes into the hospital ward with this little cardboard box from Lulu. And I'm like, it's my book! It's my book! And I grab it off him, I'm tearing it, and all these other patients are looking around thinking, what was she on? And I just held it to my chest like this. I was just, and like I say, unless you're an author, that you cannot understand what that, it's not about getting the champagne out, because you don't want the champagne. You don't need the champagne. You have everything that you need in your hands. It's a defining moment, it really is.
All of you hugged your book. We all know it.
Okay.
The first time, I know I hugged it. I was so happy. When I first got my book, I was kind of sad because I had made my own when I first self-published, and I lost the cover because my computer crashed, and my poor publisher had to get me this horrible cover. I was really sad, but when I got it, I truly hugged it. I was so glad to meet it again. I felt like I met my old friends again.
Yeah. After I had written my one book in high school that I never ended up publishing. I couldn't get it in good enough condition to send it to. At the time, I was interested in traditional publishing. I didn't know anything about indie publishing at all, and so I wanted to send it off, and I never got to. And so I sort of self-punished in a way, and it was like, I'm never gonna write again. I just don't deserve it, because if I can't finish editing something, I don't deserve to write anymore. And so from that to having my own book in my hands and putting so much effort into the cover and just spending all that time and thinking I was never even going to bother writing again, it felt impossible. I'm holding it in front of me, and I was like, it can't be real, it can't be real, I'm going to wake up, So, and I had so much energy, I didn't even know what to do with myself, I needed to run a million laps or something. It's amazing.
So for me, it was really special. It was like having a child. I mean, it's part of you. And
Less
my
painful.
very first, yes, very, very much so. My first book is Fears of Darkness, is my debut, and that one I actually wrote when I was in high school. And I set it aside for 20 years to raise my kids. And my husband kept saying, babe, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I picked it back up. First of all, I was horrified at my writing style when I was in high school, revamped the book, and to finally see it after 20 plus years in a concrete form was just, it was one of those moments that's defining in your life of where, I feel accomplished. This is part of my legacy that I'm going to leave behind. And the cool part, I don't know if you guys can see this, I'll try to, was my original cover was my daughter. So that even made it more amazing to me.
It looks like we have another question from Michael J. Elliott, really horrible author. Nobody reads his work. No, he's fantastic. A little bit scarier than I can handle because I am a chicken, but no, Michael's fabulous. Sorry, Michael. He's one of the first people that I really felt rallied for. What level of reader recognition would you all be happy with? I.e., people telling lots of others about your book, etc. I would just love to everybody to know my name, but reality is it's a big world. They're not going to know my book. They're not going to love my characters. Some people might think you're playing with gods, you're going to hell. Others might think, wow, you made up a world that's crap. Others love it and adore it. Others are mad at me for my book choices, but I just would love to see maybe a little blip on the universe showing that I was there. And I think sometimes I've already done that, so we'll see. Anyone else?
I actually had the highest compliment I think I could receive ever. And it wasn't from my favorite author, it wasn't from the President of the United States, or it was from a little girl I didn't know from Kansas. Her mother is actually a children's author, and I had posted a promo for my middle grade book, which is Feline Fascinations, The Adventures of Boris and Olga. And she saw it, and she bought it for her daughter. And when I was going, full circle to a couple months later when I went to promote it again, she actually went on there and said, this is my daughter's favorite book. She talked to the librarian about it. She made the librarian buy it for the library. And then on top of that, the little girl got on there, this is on Facebook, and she got on there and she said, hi, I'm her daughter. I just want you to know that because of your book, I'm better friends with my cat. My cat used to be mad at me, and now I understand, and now she actually cuddles with me. I love your book. Thank you so much. And I was like, that's all I needed. I whatever else I do, I made a little girl friends with her cat.
Yeah, I mean, we could say it's to do with how many reviews we have, or people contacting us privately to say that we've changed something in their lives because of the book. Mine's already happened a long time ago. I walked around a swimming pool. I live in Greece. I live in Corfu. I live in a tourist area right next to the beach. I was walking around the swimming pool, and 4 people were sitting there on the sunbeds reading my book.
That's amazing.
That is all I needed. That was years ago. That's all I've needed. I've never forgot that. I never will. And for me, that made me think, yep, done it, got there.
Did anybody else have any comments on that?
I was at a book festival about a year ago and sold a book to a young man. Like right before I opened, I was just packing and packing. He goes, what's your book about? And I explained it, and he bought it from me. And about 4 hours later, he came back, and he brought like 6 people with him and said, you got to buy this book. I'm halfway through it, and I can't put it down. And I think these are all my friends, and I think they would really like it. And
awesome.
that was all I needed.
One of the things I like to do when I go to a bookstore like Barnes & Noble, I like to go to their little kiosk with the computer, and I like to type in my author name. Even though my books aren't available there, I like to pull it up on the screen. And today I went through and I put it on 4 of theirs. I mixed up the books, but I like to, hopefully someone will walk by and say, oh, that is interesting. But it does time out. So maybe that's something else that can inspire you. I thought about taking my book to Barnes & Noble and putting it on the shelf. And when somebody picks it up to go buy, they'll probably get it free, but that would be, that might inspire me.
Actually, that happened to this one guy. I don't remember the author's name. It was somebody I didn't know. I just read an article about it where he had decided he was going to put his book on shelves in Barnes & Noble, and I think his wife tested it to see what would happen. And actually, I think he did end up, like, his wife went to the register with the book and she had to pay however much it was, but of course Barnes & Noble gets like 100% of it, but it did scan. So he started putting his books in Barnes & Nobles all over the place, and what he did was he would draw something different in every single one, and then he would like take a picture on Instagram and say, oh, this is now at, this particular Barnes & Noble, and this one is here. And people started getting really interested in getting these very original books that, no one else would have. And he like gathered a following that way. People would like watch his Instagram and wait for the next one and hope it was in their area. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I was just hacking the should have brought the book.
Right? That's awesome.
I don't really think about it as a level of readership so much as affecting people. If I can make someone feel what I am trying to convey, if they feel like it's a roller coaster, if I've made them laugh and cry, and that's all I really want to do. I want to pull those emotions out of them, and if it's 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, of course I would love for it to be 1 million people. We all would love that, but it's more about what I can make them feel than how many are feeling it. Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah, total.
Yeah, it's quality and quantity.
mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I want to involve them in this other world and really suck them into the point that they feel really in it, and they have a hard time extracting themselves. And that's when I feel like, I've accomplished something big. And like for me, I don't think my book is good enough until when I go back to look something up in it, I can't stop reading my own book because it's what I'm looking for in other books. And so like, that's just one way I sort of determine whether a book is finished or a short story even is finished or not.
I love when I give someone insomnia. When they tell me I couldn't sleep, I was up till 2 or 3, I'm like, yay.
Isn't that great?
It is. I love that you can't sleep.
I've got a favorite review, and it's somebody who read it whilst running on a treadmill and said how awful it was to run whilst reading the running game because it was so dangerous because she couldn't put it down. And I think that's always stayed with me.
I hope one day I'll have people coming up to me, and if you read my book, you're going to say the same thing to me every time. like I said, people are mad at me at the end of my first book, and I hope people come up and say that to me, and I know they're not going to like me at that moment, and I'd like to hand them book 2 so they can, feel better about it. So I don't know. If you read my book, you know what you'd say to me. I can't say it; it's a spoiler, but it looks like we had a question we might have answered, but in case anyone else had any feedback on it, do bad reviews take away from your motivation? I know Chrissy said it inspires her to get better.
I didn't weigh in on the reviews in the beginning. I think one thing that I noticed that I differ from the panel is I don't really read reviews. I mean, I do read reviews on my stuff, but I take it, I don't go and investigate, like, what other reviews did they write, or I take it for the merit of the moment. You know what I mean? Like, if it's something that I feel is real, you know what I mean? They're not just being a troll or whatever. That's important to me. Everything that's said, good, bad, or indifferent, helps me to grow and help. I always say, the good things make me continue. The bad things make me fight harder. You know what I mean? They make me want to be better. And it's really hard when you have a painful review, and especially when some of it is things you can't control, like formatting or editing, or because you can only do so much, but then once you upload it to the system, it's gonna parse it and do its little magic and put things together. And sometimes I've noticed even like punctuation and stuff will be dropped out of my manuscript, and I was like, oh my gosh, and there's no way I could fix it. I didn't know how to get it to do it. So sometimes I have to remember that some things are out of my control, even though it hurts to hear it. But I will, and like if somebody catches an error or catches a mistake or a hole, I want to fix that, because this is a product that if I'm expecting you to buy this, I want to make sure I give you the best thing I can give you. You know what I mean? But also in doing that, it makes me feel like I'm better, because now I pay more attention to that error moving forward. You know what I mean? So I don't repeat it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And to your point also, if they catch something with punctuation, one thing I make it a point to do is to actually respond and say, thank you for catching that. I'm going to fix it in the manuscript. I really appreciate it. So that, because it helps. I mean, it does help. And that way your next book, you're paying closer attention, but even in this book, you have a more flawless version. So, it's good to encourage that kind of stuff anyway.
If there's a pattern in the reviews, you have to kind of look at that in a way. If everyone is saying the same thing, like, okay, maybe I need to take a look at that. But if it's just their taste or not their taste, I suppose I should say.
I definitely agree with that.
One of the co-authors, or not co-authors, one of our colleagues with Creativia that Marnie and I work with, Doug Lamoureux. He's a best-selling horror indie author, and he had a review that was just crazy. The woman went on there and gave him a 1-star review, and her comment was, well, I don't really like horror books, so I didn't like this book. And he was like, it says right on the cover, horror. It says right in the genre, horror. He's like, if you don't like to read that kind of book, why would you read it? And then why would you leave a bad review?
I think we've all had those reviews. We have. I mean, I had one of my new book, Illusion of Reality. There we go. All 7-star reviews, 5-star reviews. Where did 7-star reviews come from? We should have 7 stars, yes. All 5-star reviews. And then I got this 3-star review off another author that just said, I picked it up by mistake. I don't like fantasy. Okay, you picked it up by mistake. Okay, you don't like fantasy. But why are you posting that review now?
I think some people just like to take things out on other people.
I had one where
the
woman said she didn't like cursing in fantasy. It didn't belong there. So she couldn't finish the book and gave it a bad review. Okay. You didn't have to read it. I mean, I market it as adult fantasy, and but
Yeah, see that sometimes that's when sometimes one, bad reviews can work in your favor. Like if I read that review, that would be like, yes, yeah, I want to read that. Or when I see reviews for other books, and they say, oh, the guy is pretentious. Yeah, that is the reason I would actually read that book. So
That's so true. I do that too.
yeah, it can work.
Well, I've heard some authors, veteran authors, had told me when I first got into publishing, they said, don't feel bad for the 1, 2s, and 3s because it makes the 4s and 5s look more legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
I get what they're saying, but that's
work.
weird. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know. I think everybody is entitled to their opinion. And there's going to be people out there that are going to love your work, people who absolutely hate your work, but most of the people are going to be somewhere in between. There's going to be bits and pieces of your story that are going to touch them, and bits and pieces that are going to make them very angry or possibly bore them. Because, you've got one person who's like, this story just was riveting, and it just kept going, and I had to turn the pages. And then you have somebody else who was like, well, I felt like they dragged on, and then at the end they rushed it, and it's the same book. You know what I mean?
I'm supposed to get motivated by those reviews, You want those 7-star reviews that say, oh, I couldn't put it down. Oh, I can't wait till the next one. That's what motivates us into wanting to write the next one. You readers, you need to understand this.
Yeah. Literally, everybody, just to put this in perspective, if you go to Amazon and type To Kill a Mockingbird, you'll find a 1-star review that says, nobody would name their kid Scout. This is this book is not believable at all.
Wow.
That goes back to the review conversation, which is a whole other segment that we could all talk for hours on reviews and how we feel about them. But that's good to know that everybody else has a little.
Well,
Ellie, how do you feel about it? Have you had any bad reviews yet?
I had a great review not so long ago, and it was somebody gave me a 1-star because my series is about paranormal people who are called Reachers, and this guy wrote, Reachers belongs to Lee Child and nobody else. And obviously Lee Child wrote the Jack Reacher. Not necessarily anything to do with paranormal, but obviously he has the embargo on the word. And this reviewer was intent on just giving me a 1-star review because I used the word Reacher. So I just take it with a pinch of salt now. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I have capitalized so much off that one guy's review because everyone loves to hear about it.
I had a question for the panel. We see oftentimes a lot of people post their stats on Facebook and their ranking. How much do you pay attention to your ranking? How much does that motivate you and inspire you? And is it something that you aspire to when you look at that? Is that the number that matters?
Absolutely not.
Sorry. I was to say, when I first published, I got my book to number 13 in paranormal romance. I don't know which subcategory. And someone said, well, once you hit that, you're a bestseller, but you're not going to get the tag until you hit number 1. So we went out and got a cake that said bestseller. So I think that if that helps you feel motivated, that's great.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't. I don't take any notice of that from other authors, how they are, how their stats are, and how my own stats are. People can call themselves a best-selling author because they've got to number 2 in this, I don't know, spiritual, paranormal, romance, short story, reading 60 seconds book. Okay, but in 2 days' time, someone's going to beat that score anyway, but you're still a bestseller, even though you're not a bestseller, and you're only being a bestseller for 2 seconds. So no, I don't take any, I don't think it's, for me, and I think for a lot of indie authors, it's not really about the sales that motivate us. It's great to have high stats, but they're not going to last anyway. It's for me, it's recognition. It's to get some reward motivates me, to know that I'm doing a good job, to know that I'm making people happy, to know that they're enjoying my book, to know that I'm helping somebody. For me, that just motivates me in everything I do.
Yeah, I never look at stats, and it's not on purpose. I don't even remember, because frankly, it's irrelevant. You know, if people enjoy the book, then that's really what matters. I don't care where I come in. If I come in at the bottom, it doesn't matter, because, you know, sometimes you'll have one sale in a month, and that one sale is a 5-star review where somebody says, this is like the best book ever or something, you know, and I think that matters a lot more. And I think that just doing the writing is what matters the most to me. So I'm pretty sure if I had no reviews and I was at the bottom, I'd still be writing and publishing. I don't think I'd care too much.
When I first published, I think I probably looked more because it was new. It was, you know, it was exciting. But I quickly, like, I didn't have time. Before you know it, you're doing so many other things. You just don't have time to obsess over that. And when someone messages me and says, oh my God, I just read chapter whatever, I can't believe you just did that, that means more to me than, you know, what the stats say. So
I think it's fair to say that most of the people I know, including myself, when you very first become a published author, you pay more attention to the stats. But I think that's because you have the mindset like, oh, I have to do good, I have to do good. But then you realize the stats have weird algorithms, and they really don't mean anything.
Exactly.
And after a while, you realize that. And then you just quit looking. I mean, sometimes I'll look and I'll be like, cool. And then other times I look and I'm like, but usually I don't pay attention to that either.
That's a good point, though. Our readers probably don't know that how quickly it changes. In my phone, I have probably 70 screenshots from a period when I had a promo, just watching my stats, because there's nowhere really telling me where I was, like, on a ranking. There's no really place to go see that I know of. So maybe you could, like you said, you could be number 1 minute, and then an hour later you're 392, or 300,000, 500. You know.
Well, and Amazon updates their ranking hourly, so enjoy that, you know, 30 seconds. Woohoo! Was it a good cake?
It was so fantastic. YouTube question from Mark. How many of you have envisioned your books becoming a movie one day? I know I have. Anyone else?
definitely.
Hell yeah.
Well, it's cool too because with our again, I'm plugging for our publisher. Our publisher, Creativia, actually partners with Thunderball Films, which is taking they take certain manuscripts and convert them over, and so they've actually taken on like 5 different authors that I know of that they're converting to either movie or television. And one thing that I was really surprised by, because you know everybody fantasizes about it, especially because when I personally write, I see the movie in my head. You know what I mean? And so of course I'm like, oh, this is going to be the movie. You know what I mean? But I recently was contacted by a studio that was interested in one of my newer books that I had put out, my book Revived. And I mean, nothing's come of it yet, but even just somebody showing interest, somebody from California that I didn't even know existed, contacting me, that's all I need. I feel like, woohoo! My book's a movie, even if it's just in my head, you know? So I think it's amazing. It's hard to make the transition, though.
This is one of my books that I pressed the refresh button on, Lawless Justice. I don't know if you can see it. This book, which is my biggest book yet, this book was inspired by the movie Death Proof by Quentin Tarantino. Now, if anyone was going to make this into a movie, it would have to be Quentin Tarantino. And this is the book, out of all of my 8 books, this is the book that my readers, my fans want to see at the cinema. So Quentin Tarantino, if you are listening, Lawless Justice, contact me. Love your work. Mwah.
And Quentin Tarantino, if you're listening, like, subscribe, comment on my video, please, for the love of God, please subscribe to me. That would be the greatest thing ever. But I have a follow-up to this great question that Mark presented, and that's how many of us have cast our movie?
That's what I was going to ask you, because I know we all have. There's no way you haven't. Go to Pinterest.
I want to know from Marnie what part in her movie does Judi Dench play, because I know there's a part
She's
for her.
Graham. She'll always be there. She is my Spitfire Graham, and she will always be my Graham. Yeah, no, she'll always be Graham.
I haven't casted mine because I have a certain picture in my head, and I don't know anyone in Hollywood that is my character.
I'm the same way. I could not imagine who would actually play Ian Troy. I'm sure there's plenty of people who could do it very well, but I can't. When people ask me that, I can't pull anyone off the top of my head because he's his own person. He's his own creation to me, and yeah, that's hard. But I'd love that. That would be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Have you found any of the other casts though? Because I know what my main character. I kind of find people like, oh, bits of her and bits of her. But then,
Yeah, on the Imagined film list, the website, I have Crown of Stones up there for Magic Price, and there's some actors and actresses listed, and yeah, so there's a few others, but not Ian. Ian, they would just have to say this is it, and that's it, because I couldn't pick. I just don't know how I would pick.
I think main characters are definitely the hardest like that when it's like that big of a main character. For me, Abigail, I have no clue who I would do, in Anatomy of a Darkened Heart, but I can say that one of the characters that is someone who pursues Abigail, Conrad Scott, I actually based his looks off of an exaggerated version of Eddie Redgrave. Eddie Redgrave. Is that the right name? I probably don't even have it right. Eddie Redmayne, that's his name. Eddie Redmayne.
There you go.
That shows how much I know. But anyway, I actually based his looks on a very exaggerated version of him, so I think he would be perfect, and his acting would be perfect. And the only other person I could think to cast was, I really like Rob James Collier from, who's Thomas in Downton Abbey. And he could play Abigail's father flawlessly. He could play a lot of characters, in my upcoming book, he could play pretty much anyone he wants. He would be excellent. He just has that dark way about him and that manipulative way that I think would suit a lot of those characters.
Well, for me, and I'm sure Jason can relate to this a little bit, having been a filmmaker, I know it's not as easy as getting the cast that you want in a film to actually be in the film that you want them to be in. I have a friend who did a documentary about he had a script that he wanted Johnny Depp to have to be in a movie, and he actually did a documentary all about him chasing Johnny Depp, and then he finding this crazy subculture of Johnny Depp fans. It's a great movie. It's called Do It for Johnny, if anybody wants to see it, by Haler Garcia. But anyway, that is the reality, as much as us trying to get a publishing contract is to getting somebody, for a filmmaker, getting somebody known to do their movie.
Well, also, how old will they be by the time we get there? I mean, that's like valid. I'm like, I love Judy with all my heart, and the day she passes from the earth, I will be devastated and probably give up writing forever. But she probably won't be around by the time I get big enough to have a movie. I might not be big enough. My legacy will.
I just want a video game.
I think guys will probably all be like, oh my gosh, but I love Kristen Stewart. I really do. And I think I think her style would work really well with my character Tiffany from A Prisoner Within, but she's too old for it, you know. So even when you do have somebody that you think about, like the only character that I ever wrote that was truly based on an actor was in my book Justifying Jack that I co-wrote with Simone, and Jack is actually, his looks are based off of Shamar Moore. There's no way Shamar Moore could play him because they're not the right ages. It's just he's hot and I wanted him to look like him.
Yeah, I mean, one of my books, I had the baddie Darthorn. He was going to be Antonio Banderas. Well, I wrote this book 12 years ago. I mean, Antonio Banderas can't play him now. He's got grey hair, for Christ's sake. So yeah, you do. You have an idea of when you're writing who you want your characters to be, if there was ever a movie. But so when it comes to the crunch, by the time the movie is done, if ever, we can dream. They're going to be too old.
Well, guys, it looks like we're close to our time to say goodbye. I know it's been super fun. What I want to do is ask you all just go around, if you haven't seen anything, and just let everyone know your name and how we can find out more about you. So if we want to start with Ellie, since you're on my screen, love, do you want to share with us any final words? Was it painful joining us? Fabulous. Come back again.
Marnie, you've done a great job. It is 1:30 in the morning here. I know Jason is probably really tired as well, not as tired as Karina is. But you've done a great job, and if you want to find out more about me, you can check me out on my website, which is www.elliefitzpatrick.com. I recommend all of the authors on the panel. They're all amazing, and good night.
And Karina, since you're on my screen.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is my books. I have 8 of them. You can find them all on Amazon. I am all over social media, everywhere. Just click on Karina Gantus, you'll find me. And if any authors there are getting stuck and need any help, then come and find me as Kate Gantus, Author Assist. You did a fantastic job. I'm so honoured to be asked to be on this panel. I've had a fantastic time. Yes, it's now 3:30 in the morning. I'm wide awake. Let's keep going. Let's carry on partying. Thank you for everyone who's watched and everyone who answers questions. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marnie, for dragging me out of my hermit cave for the night. It was very painless and a lot of fun. And yes, Joe, I will do it again. You can find me at clschneiderauthor.com, or please come find me on Twitter. I love to chat, so look me up. Thank you guys for everything. Have a good night.
Yeah, Marnie, you did a great job. I really enjoyed being on this panel. It was so much fun, and all of you guys are so supportive, and I really enjoyed it. So my name is Christy Stratus. My book is Anatomy of a Darkened Heart. Lock and Key will be coming out in the fall. You can find me at christystratus.com, and you can look me up on pretty much any social media platform. And I do different things across platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all completely different content. So definitely search for me, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again.
Thank you, Marnie, for asking me to be here today. This was really great. I was actually kind of nervous and a little terrified to do it, but you guys have been wonderful, and you made it really a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it. My author name is J.M. Northup, and I'm on Facebook. I have a book group that I encourage all authors and promoters and editors and everything to join and promote their stuff, to try to get our community to be more supportive. You can find me on Twitter. I'm on Google+. I kind of dabble on a couple other things like Pinterest and that, but really Facebook is my main outlet. So, and you can find my books on Amazon, and hopefully you like them. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
And Jason, I'm going to have you go next since you've been standing for us.
That's all right, yeah.
You're fabulous. You've really been a trooper, and we love that you were able to join us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been really good, so cheers for that. And it's great to meet you all. So yeah, my name's Jason Greensides, The Distant Sound of Violence. Just type my name in Amazon or jasongreensides.com or Facebook, whatever you want. Connect with me if you particularly like contemporary fiction, literary, whatever. But yeah, thanks for having me again. Great to see you all. Cheers.
I'm Marnie Kate. You can find me at Marnie Kate, cat with an E on the end.com or Amazon. I'm a Facebook girl. I'd love to say I'm Twitter, but I'm not as good as I should be. So I'd love for you to read my book and send me a message telling me how mad you are at me or tell me how much you love me. But I wanted to say thank you, Joe, for having Go Indie Now for us and offering this platform. You have been beyond amazing. Joe has done so much for our community that I can't even put into words. And he's now a panelist that is not the host. And I love that. So Joe, I just want to thank you. And I want you to send us out, Joe. Oh, I want to know what your favorite swear word is since we're going out and it's my
Karina knows because we had that conversation, but it's the F word. I mean, you just got to go with the F word. It's just a classic.
It's a classic.
Yeah. Actually, I've adopted a new one that is familiar to the British culture, but it's not appropriate for this conversation.
Perfect.
But I just wanted to say thank you to Marnie. She asked me to do this a couple months ago, jumped on it, and this was all her, everybody. This was her idea. This was her topic. This was her panel. This was everything that she wanted. Hopefully, it was everything that she wanted and more. And she was phenomenal as a host, and I hope she wants to do it again because I would love to have her do it again because she's amazing. And to all of you, thank you so much. Look, everybody is here because of you all and what you do, and I'm here for that reason. So that's what I want to say to everybody is, go check out these authors. I'm telling you right now that these are the cream of the crop, amazing human beings and amazing talented writers. And they will knock your socks off when you pick up their books, I promise you. They're amazing. And all of our audience, I want to thank all of our audience out there for being with us and asking so many great questions and doing so much interacting. It was awesome. There was a lot of chat going on YouTube, and I encourage all our panelists to go back and take a look because there was comments about each of you on there and engage with them and afterwards and talk to them because they would love to hear from you all. You guys were great. So my name's Joe Compton. This is Go Indie Now. This was our live panel discussion for the month of September, and it was a real pleasure. I want to say one thing that is geared toward me and what I do. You can see Christy and Marnie wearing the Go Indie Now t-shirts today. I really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. But the swag is available right now. So if you ever wanted a Go Indie Now t-shirt, a tank top, a hoodie, I've got coffee mugs, everything you could possibly want from Go Indie Now to represent us. That would just mean the world to me. Go and do it. And it's only open for the next 2 days. So I've kept that campaign going for the next 2 days. And then we're done. And then I don't know when I'll have it again. So definitely go and get your stuff if you want to get something. I'll probably do another one through Christmas. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I just want to thank everybody for being here. And remember just this one little thing. It's always time to go indie now. Goodbye, everybody.